Hey, everybody, it's David. Four, three, two, one. That's what we're going to talk about today. Today, we're going to talk about four books, three podcasts, two YouTube channels, and one idea from David in Progress to help you start that path or continue that path to financial independence. Are you ready? Let's talk about it. Hey, everybody, it's David at David in Progress, where we talk about financial independence, retiring early, and doing your best to live your best life now from the perspective of just a regular guy who's doing his best to do all those things. Thank you so much for watching. I consider myself to be a lifelong learner. I believe in the concept of synthesis. That is, the more you gather, the more you throw into the pot to synthesize together, the better your life can be. And that is especially true when it comes to reaching financial independence, which in reality I think is more important than the re part, to retire early. The first thing you got to do is get to FI, become financially independent. And to do that, it's really important to always be learning. There is a ton of information out there. And the more you learn, the stronger you will be mentally to have those five muscles in order to reach your financial independence. I thought it would be fun to do a bit of a countdown. And I'll be honest, it was really hard to narrow it down into these categories. And there are many more great resources out there. Once you've listened or saw my list, highly recommend please go down in the comments and share yours as well. What are your top financial independence resources? All right, let's start off with books. And I can't talk about books without talking about The Millionaire Next Door. Let's go backwards. I am newly working. It's 1991. I grew up poor from a small town. I moved up to the big city for my first job, where I'm earning a whopping $14,000 a year, the bare minimum I had figured out in order to just survive. And I'm not even sure why I picked up this book, but for some reason I read this book called The Millionaire Next Door, and it was eye opening for me. Even sitting there in that cubicle in 1990, whatever, I learned that a regular person, somebody without a tremendous income, over a period of time could become a millionaire. The stories were great. Key things that I learned from that is that truly millionaires can live right next door to you. They're not people with high income or fancy cars. They're driving used cars. They're buying their clothes at J.C. Penney. They're living frugally. And that is something that even me, someone like me, could do and eventually accomplish. That book was the motivation to enroll in my first 401k. I thought I was too poor to start saving. But the book taught me that you had to get started, and eventually I could become that millionaire next door. So I did it. I went, and it was probably paper back then, and I enrolled into the 401k for the first time. And man, am I glad 30 plus years later that I did. Another book that has been very important to me is this one, The Automatic Millionaire by David Bach. It's a book that I give away to people often. And this book has some key concepts that were really important to me. He is famous for the latte factor. You may have heard of that. And it was a great catchphrase for one thing, but it is the thought that little things that you spend money on can be wasteful. And by spending money on them, you are losing potential wealth far into the future. Give up that trip to Starbucks or maybe get something less expensive when you go. In my case, the latte factor was going out to lunch and spending money on things like that. I stopped doing that. I brought my lunch almost every day for work the entire time of my working career. Another key concept from that book that was very important is pay yourself first. It was the first time I ever heard that term. You think about enrolling in the 401k or setting up automatic investing, you are making sure that before that paycheck clears and goes into your account, that you have paid yourself first by setting some money aside for the future you. So the latte factor, pay yourself first, and automatic investing were key things from that book that really were important to me. I learned from the automatic millionaire that saving and investing does not have to be complicated. Compounding is a wonderful thing. If you set things up to be automatic and you do so over a long period of time, you can make wealth inevitable. That there is no way that it is going to stop if you make things automatic. It was 2017 when I learned about this thing called the FIRE movement. And for me, the trigger person, the one that I immediately, for whatever reason, was drawn to and appreciated his advice was J.L. Collins in his book, The Simple Path to Wealth. It turned out that in all these years, I was basically doing this. I was following the simple path to wealth. I had always invested in low cost index funds. And this book really helped me understand even more the importance of doing that. Written as a series of letters to his college age daughter, the book is simple to read. And when you watch J.L. Collins in interviews or listen to him, he is just very relatable and someone that has great information. I learned from this book and was highly motivated about the impact of fees to your future. Those are fees through having assets under management where you've got an advisor costing you money and fees deep down in your 401k. The other thing I learned that was really great was the concept of FU money. And I've got a video further back talking about FU money. Go out there and watch that if you can. But J.L. Collins has been great. The fourth book I'm going to talk about is called Your Money or Your Life. The title alone gives you a good idea of what it is about. And I'll admit the book is a little hippie-ish. The author ends up living in a commune some point in her life, those type of things. But the key concept of it, that when you are taking money, you are exchanging part of your life. That is a critical piece of it. There was a quote in the book that I really like. Money is something you trade your energy for. You sell your time for money. It doesn't matter that Ned over there sells his time for $100 and you sell yours for $20 an hour. Ned's money is irrelevant to you. The only real asset you have is your time, the hours of your life. How incredibly true that is. It is the finite thing that we have, time, and how you use that time, that is so critically important. And every time that you go to work, you are exchanging a little bit of your life for those dollars. And how freeing it is to have a life where you are no longer exchanging your life for money. This book really helped me with the psychology of the why behind becoming financially independent. There are a lot of resources out there about the how, and there is some how discussed in this book. But the key takeaway for me was demotivation into the why, the importance of that finite asset that we have known as time. Okay, now 3 podcasts. I love reading books, but I especially love listening to podcasts. There's such a low effort way of learning. You can listen while you are on your way to work in the car, you're out, in my case, walking the dog. There are plenty of opportunities to put those headphones in and listen to a good podcast so you could start soaking in information. My favorite since 2017 has been the Choose FI, Choose Financial Independence podcast. It is the spark that lit my fire where I learned about the Rule of 55, where I met J.O. Collins and where I found all these resources that helped change my mindset to know that I could reach financial independence sooner than I thought and that I could retire early sooner than I thought. I listen to this podcast every week. Highly recommended. Another podcast I like is Ramit Sethi and his Money for Couples. I almost put his book, I Will Teach You to Be Rich, on my list, but I knew I was going to talk about the podcast, so I left the book off. I do like the book a lot. The thing I like about Ramit is that his podcast, he brings in real people and he coaches them about their money life. And he does it in a respectful way. I especially like the technique where he will stop the podcast, talk a little bit to you, the listener, about why he asked the question he asked. And he also provides a little feedback about the people that he is speaking with at that time, and then he moves forward. It is fantastic. If you are married or in a relationship, highly recommend that podcast. My wife and I love to listen to it when we travel as well. I consider this entertainment, almost financial entertainment, but I really enjoy the podcast Stacking Benjamins. And I think they have more than one episode a week. In that podcast, there are a variety of people who come together including Paul Pant, who Afford Anything podcast is also very good. And I talk about various financial topics every week. Now, two YouTube channels. The first one, and probably the one that I've watched the most over the last couple of years, is the Money Guy Show. Brian Preston on that show is just fantastic. He brings a lot of great numbers. He talks about strategies, and his philosophy on low cost index fund investing and other things are very much in alignment with what I believe. He does have a book called The Millionaire Mission. I did do a review of it. You can see it through the description that I'll link below. But I most like the actual YouTube channel and the topics that he covers there. Tends to repeat himself. There's only so much you can say about the same subject, but you can go into their library and find something I am sure that relates completely to you. And I enjoy watching it on YouTube. Rob Berger is another one that I think is really, really good on YouTube. His website too is also great, where he has various example portfolios that you can see to get examples of real ways to invest. Rob's YouTube channel and his advice on his channel are very specific about different financial strategies. He covers timely things as far as what's going on within the economy, as far as it relates back to your investments. And Rob is very active in the FIRE community, in that you'll see him interviewed on different shows. You'll also find that he attends different conferences. And his channel, I believe, is very sincere in that it is giving you good information to help you make your own decisions. So that was it. 4 books, 3 podcasts, 2 YouTube channels, now down to my one big idea. And that one is, the most important thing is that no matter what you read, no matter what you listen to, is that you believe that no matter what your circumstance is, that there is a path for you to achieve financial independence. Step 1 is always believe. Step 2 is to get educated. And then step 3 is to go out and actually do something. But belief is that spark that can light the fire to your success and to achieving the life that you know that you can have with the right amount of effort and the right amount of time. I just know you can do it. And I believe that you can, and I believe there is a way for you. So that is it. That is the list. What would you add to this list? What books, podcasts, YouTube channel, resources would you add to the list to help encourage someone to blaze that path to financial independence? I would love to hear from you. Leave your best ideas below in the comments. And hey, I want to thank you so much for watching. I want to thank you for being part of this channel. I love these conversations we get to have every week, and I hope that you're getting value out of this channel. But most importantly, I hope that you are taking a small step every day to live your best life now. Thank you so much for watching.